This is our competency maintains presence. And this is something that we want to get comfortable with this. It's very hard to maintain presence when you're consumed with the next question you're going to ask. Okay, it's hard. Your brain can't do all the things. It can't listen and be super present and also be formulating your question and then also be figuring out. So when you start out in coaching like you guys are, you're not going to be fully present. It's not going to happen. And that's okay because there's a lot going on. So again, having like a lot of compassion for yourselves. This is a new thing and it takes a lot of skill to be present. It really, really does. We're distracted all the time as humans, especially now that we have phones, right? It's constant distraction. So, have patience with yourselves and compassion with yourself as you're learning to coach in this way and really being fully conscious and present with your client. So being open and flexible and grounded and confident. And like I said, confidence comes with progress. Comes with time. It's making progress. It's practice. So, of course, in this, we want to really be focused on what they're saying and also focused on what they're not saying. Looking at their tone, their body language. These are all things that we can kind of check in on especially if we see something like a disconnect where they're saying one thing, but maybe you're noticing their body language is saying something different. So these are all things we can check in with a client on. Of course, we want to be curious during the coaching process. We as coaches, we need to maintain our own emotions and to stay present with the client. So this is important. Again, we didn't really get a chance to talk about it too much, but this coaching mindset that we need to have as a coach is a way to kind of ground ourselves when we are maybe feeling triggered by something a client says, or maybe we know the situation, right? So, because you guys might be coaching people within your church. So maybe you're coaching someone and they're talking about a person that and this whole situation. So it's really important for us to kind of get our emotions in check, meaning that our judgments, right, our biases, right, that might be coming up, and how to kind of notice that they're there and then being able to release that so that you can really listen to the client and what they're sharing. So, and that takes practice as a coach to be able to do that. Of course, we want to show confidence when we're working with a client's strong emotions during the coaching process. So if we have someone that is very upset, right, then maybe they're crying, we want to be able to, of course, show empathy for our client, but we also don't want to get as far as so emotional, be in their own emotion with them that we can't kind of stay objective and actually facilitate this coaching process, right? We can be empathetic without crying along with them. I'm not necessarily, I'm not going to say that you can't, cry in a sense. Like if you have tears welling up when you're hearing something, I mean, that's an emotional reaction, right, that we have. But I think it's important to notice that and then be able to kind of calm your nervous system down, so that you can, again, hope them, you're going to hopefully have them meet their goal in the session. So that's what that really means. You're able to kind of navigate that as personally for yourself as a coach. So, and again, also as a coach, we're working in a space of like, we don't know where it's going to go necessarily. Even if you have all of the questions that you want to ask, I mean, coaching it's unpredictable. You're not sure where you're going to end up really in the end. So, and of course, we want to allow space for silence and pause and reflection. So we don't have to have a question or a summary after every time a client speaks. We want to leave some pause within there. And also, we also want to be careful that we're not interjecting a question when they aren't finished talking, right? So, looking at their body language. If they look away, they might have more to say after that. So leaving that space there for them to fill that in with maybe more information. And again, we're just partnering with our client and remaining present and curious. As far as these markers go, this is where we talked about the things I do want you to keep in mind that, you won't perceive the passing score. If you're really focused on your own view of the situation rather than exploring the client's view. So you want to make sure that it's centered around your client. And then also, if you're not exploring the thinking around the situation, and you're not really, tapping into that, so that again wouldn't receive the passing score. Or if you're constantly directing the conversation, they say they want to accomplish this, but then now you're on to a different topic and you're really leading them in a different direction. And if you're doing that consistently, then that's going to be that's going to be a problem. And again, if you're really focused on your own performance, demonstrating your own knowledge, you're the expert of the situation, then that again is not going to receive the passing score. So again, and just so you guys understand, so when we're coaching, when you look at 5.1 here, so when you as the coach act in response of the whole person, the client, the whole person of the client, the who, is really their emotions, their beliefs, their values, kind of what makes them uniquely them. So that's kind of that whole person. And again, when we're looking at that whole person, this is where we're looking through like limiting beliefs maybe they might have, maybe expanding their perspective of how they see things. So that's what we want to do as coaches. And then, of course, we want to respond into what they want, right? The what of the session, what they want to accomplish. If they want a plan, they want a strategy, but really, what is that strategy going to give them? We do want to explore that as well within a session.
I just have a quick, well, I don't know. I guess the balance between maintaining, I'm sorry, do you mind just sharing? Oh, it's okay.
The present.
The part that you said, yeah, like one of the points, I don't have the printer with me,
Yeah.
but the part about remaining engaged and being curious, with the client without okay, like the coach in response to what the client wants to accomplish throughout the session. I know that like Mia was trying to kind of explore a little bit with Andrea, but there's always that temptation of you end up kind of becoming murky or getting into the weeds and things like that, just to be able to maintain presence but kind of balance that. And then I don't know if Mia, if I were in your situation, I was like, okay, how do I get out of this one? I kind of start going down that path, kind of digging a little bit too deep. I'm not sure if I make sense, my question, but like you're trying to maintain presence and engage and find out more, but end up going down that path where she's trying to solve the ministry problems and without trying to solve the problems, I guess.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
No, I think I know what she's saying too, because I think what the problem that I fell into was because I think part of it is like the coach has to maintain that objective, like always keep in mind the goal of the conversation or like what they want to get out of it. And I think I lost sight of that because I was caught up in the talking about her situation. So I think that's hard. I think that was the hard part, that sometimes it's hard to balance.
It is hard to balance. It is hard to balance. And that's why when you come in at like an ACC level, that a lot of times coaching the who is not the top priority. It's more of like, okay, what do you want to accomplish? And you're checking it off and you're getting your action steps. So yeah, that can be something that you can get kind of lost. But that's where, making sure you have the time in front of you, making sure you're writing down what the agreement is, especially, I don't recommend this all the time as you're, become more experienced at coaching, but even writing down what the agreement is so you can go back to that. So you can watch the clock. And then if you notice you're in the weeds, you can say, okay, I just want to check in here. I know from the session, you can do a halfway check-in point. This is what you wanted to accomplish. And then so you could have always asked that, what do we need to address question if you notice you're lost and you notice you're not on the target of like, coaching the what, so what they want to accomplish at the session. So you have permission to do that, to check in with the agreement and work with that. And then you can loop back. So if they say something about, I think she said something about like, The ministry groups. Okay, you can bring it back to that. Okay, so as far as your ministry groups, I know you wanted to have this action plan. So if we're looking at this with your ministry groups, what might be the first step of the action plan, right? So you can kind of bring it back to it. But it's just really important that you clearly have that agreement in front of you, like black and write it with your pen, write it down so you can make sure you know where you're headed. And then you can look back to that if you say, oh my word, now we're off track. So I'm going to bring us back. So I'm just going to check in. I'm going to just say, this was our agreement. If you have to re-agree and they want to recontract and now they want to go in a different direction, that's okay. Now, if you only have like 5 minutes left, that's not going to be a very, productive conversation. But I mean, if you have more than that, then you could. But when you're coaching for these 30 minutes, it's difficult to hit all of the things. It really is. It's way easier if you have 45 minutes to an hour to hit a lot of the markers here and coach the who, coach the what, get all the things they need. So yeah, there's a lot to cover in 30 minutes. And I don't expect you to hit them all and do it in those 30 minutes.